All right, hello everyone. Bonjour. It's a pleasure to be here and talk to you about our character push. I'm gonna deliver a quick presentation on our roadmap, and then the fun part begins when Warren, our senior animator, shows you the latest in Houdini 20.5, which is our upcoming release. Let's start here. This is really the most important slide. Just to tell you that we're making a really serious long-term commitment to character animation and character effects. We're not just dipping our feet into that water. We have a new architecture in place called KineFX. It's a project umbrella. And under that umbrella, we have a number of projects going to tackle rigging, animation, just general motion synthesis and motion editing. And it goes beyond that into character effects and full-on effects. The goal in the end is to allow you to rig and animate in Houdini mainstream and to turn the animation part of our software into the main hub, if that's what you want to do. So how do we go about it? What's our approach? What's our philosophy? Everything that we're doing is driven by animators. This is not the SideFX mathies of adding another equation. We've done that a lot in the past. Can't promise you that we'll stop. We'll probably add more equations in the future. But, you know, we're talking about an art here that has to feel very much intended for the artist. We're aware of that, and that's what we're trying to deliver. So even internally, you know, the work that we're doing is driven by an animator, by a senior animator. We talk to you guys all the time to make sure that we're picking the right path. The other thing I want to say is we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're not trying to be arrogant and say, SideFX knows how this is done. Let us show you how to animate in the, you know, in the next century. We are very respectful of your knowledge. We're respectful of your craft, of the things that you're accustomed to. We understand that certain things should not change, but we'd like to know what might or should change, and then we want to operate on that. As we've always done it at SideFX, what we want to do is not break you away from your knowledge, that, you know, knowledge and skill and productivity and security. We want to make it better. We want to help you envision new ways to excel. And to summarize it, you know, animate and direct, you know, faster and better. And the word direct, you know, is going to become more and more important, less of a buzzword, more of a real thing as we dive, all of us, dive more into machine learning. All right. First thing, let's start with the rigs, because we can't animate without them. Even if the room here is full of animators, some of you will want to do the rigging or will want to know that someone can rig really well for you. So our first goal was to deliver a new system that allows for lightning fast rig execution. So for that, we built a framework. It's something called APEX. Some of them, you've heard of it. It's still fresh. In its first iteration in Houdini 20, which we released last year, it still showed a lot of its rough edges, but we're working on that. But performance was why we created it. So you can have really high complexity production rigs and also multiple rigs, multiple characters on screen, and execute all of that in real time. Second thing, dynamic, like as in live procedural rigs. Yes, you can still bake your rigs, make them declarative in Houdini, the way we plan it. But one of the great ways that you can innovate with that, to have the choice, is to have them not be locked down, to be able to exchange parts of the rigs and have them appear when you need them. And that is the whole idea of procedural rigging, which maps very well onto the Houdini philosophy. But this is, again, not SideFX saying this is how it shall be done because we know proceduralism, but because we've been told and we've seen that there are benefits to doing things procedurally, rig-wise. And what is the most powerful example, the epitome of having live procedural rigs? It's something called ephemeral rigging or on-demand rigging, which is what KineFX and APEX are perfectly suited for. And this scenario lets you work basically without a rig. Or, you know, you work directly with the skeleton and then you put on rigs and remove them dynamically, not having to worry about how that might work when, you know, I remove it and I put another rig on. You know, will the inverse transform work? You don't have to worry about it. So it's on-demand ephemeral rigging, and we are marching towards that goal. Auto rigging components. This is an obvious one. This is not a, oh my God, you thought about that side effects? No, this is just to tell you that we're listening and we're hearing. We understand that not everybody wants or has the time to build their rigs from scratch. So it's nice to have auto rig components and then encapsulate them in bigger ones so that you can, pick and choose. And also because everything in Houdini is open, it's an open book. You can dive into those rigs and learn from them and then make your own. So a rich system of auto rigging components is definitely in the cards. So what's the goal? Well, obviously more, faster, more fluid, faster and more fluid workflow, whether you are a rigger or an animator waiting for your rigs to be delivered. And then there's the, it's not even a secret sauce, is the most known sauce that SideFX has, which is physics and simulation. We've been doing that for a while. We think that we can do that pretty well, and we can leverage it also very, very well in character rigging and animation. So we want to impart all the physics properties that one can imagine to characters, not as a plugin, not as an add-on, this to be part of Houdini proper. And in fact, everything that I'm describing today is intended to be part of Houdini proper. And first thing, when you think about physics for characters, you think ragdolls, and of course, we're supporting that already and we're making it better. You can see that in this little still over here, and Warren will show you actually how that works in a couple of minutes. But it goes beyond that. We're looking at actually doing animator posing with ragdolls. So there are many ways that you can use ragdolls. You can use it as a predictive tool. You can use it as a fixer of the center of gravity. You can use it in these two ways I've described, many, many ways. So gradually we'll add them on. You can add it to rigging and animating a bird. It's a different kind of creature. It may require different types of physics applied to it. But we're starting with the bottom, which is ragdolls for regular humanoid characters, and we're going into things that can be soft and really bendy, like the wings of a bird. And actually, it goes beyond that. And that's what I was talking about earlier when we said we're stepping not just into rig and animation, but also into CFX. So we would like, and we've heard you would like, to be able to animate while also certain things that usually are relegated to the stage after animation happens. So you'd like to see something like, wrinkles on the body of your creature, or in this case, in this picture, on the t-shirt of this Minotaur, deform while you are animating. And that's one example. Then there's hair, right? There are muscles. There are so many other things. Let me show you, before I go too far in that direction, here's an actual real-time capture of this Minotaur being animated in APEX, and the wrinkles are generated in real time. This is a solution that you'll find throughout Houdini. You can use it for everything, for, truck tires, for absolutely anything else. But you can use it for this also, and it's real time. It is a deformer. It's inspired by Leathem, so it's inspired by a simulation technique, but it's actually written in a way where it doesn't depend on previous frames, so that makes it super, super fast. And then going even beyond CFX, going into like full-on effects. This was animated by Warren a while back, and it still is on our sort of go-to document for where we want to get. The characters were animated by hand. There's some RBD, rigid body dynamics, in their animation as well. But the point I want to make is if you look at the pushing of the chairs, the table, and the breaking of the wall, these are more sort of general VFX elements. Some of them you could argue are props, but some of them are really going into effects territory. They could be firing up a barbecue. They could be walking through a puddle. Who knows? So water, all these elements that you see and that effects people use at that stage along the pipeline where effects are dealt with. We want to move that into here, albeit in a simplified fashion using smart caching, looking for real-time solutions that are maybe not all physically based. Why? So that you can have a better sense of the environment, of the motion, of the volume that your characters occupy, so be able to talk to your animation supervisor and to the director and accelerate those important decisions before waiting for that fully sequential result. So That's what this slide is summing up. We want with KineFX and APEX to help you break away from linearity when you choose to do so. Again, these are all options. We are not insisting this is how it shall be done, but this is how it could be done. And in that way, we're not waiting for the pipeline to go chug, 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 segment by segment. You are accelerating it, you're compacting it, you're putting it all as basically a number of live layers, because everything is live in Houdini or cached, right? So you can have those layers all present at one time right away before you for those important decisions. And then ML. I don't think anyone can give a presentation today without mentioning it. This is not lip service. We are very serious about machine learning. This is just one example of machine learning now functioning built into Houdini. It's no longer just an example, as you may have seen in Houdini 20. So on the right-hand side, you see the ML deformed character. On the left, this is before ML. You can see on the left how that whole pectoral kind of shoulder area deforms, not so great. The bicep, when the character bends the elbow, looks really bad, and the one on the left. So you can get much better results with ML, even if you're not doing a muscle creature, okay? It could be something very simple, but if you want the right volume preservation, if you want, the elbow and the knee to look right without you having to go always into pose space type of stuff, ML could be a friend. And there are so many other uses for it. Many of you, I'm sure, know what they can be. You can go into tweening. You can go into generating crowd movement. It could be so much more. Behavioral elements, the whole directorial aspect of ML, absolutely there. So what are our main points to tell you about when we talk about ML in the context of animation, and in fact, Houdini in general? It's going to be increasingly foundational for us and broad, meaning that we'll cover the whole gamut of functionality in Houdini. Gradually, it's all gradual. It's a big, big topic. And we're still learning about things. We're not jumping head first. We want it to be tailored to your needs. This means that, first of all, it needs to solve a real problem for our users, for you. And also, it means that you can customize what we build. We give you the tools to do the training yourselves. We give you the tools to run the machine learning algorithm in Houdini natively. We show you how we're solving certain solutions like the ML deform. You can take it and then apply it to yourselves. But the most important thing is that you'll be able to train your own data with Houdini using our mechanisms right out of the box. Because we will not be able to generate enough training data to represent the style, the look, the feel of all the work that you guys do. That's absolutely impossible. So tailoring things to your need is an essential thing for us to deliver to you. It's not important to all businesses out there that talk about ML, but it is important, I think, to our community. The whole directorial potential, the sit down, get up, walk there, and whatnot, there's ample opportunity to do that. But not just to do it and then look at the result and try to make it fit into your vision. The important thing is this to not just be driven by ML, okay? But assisted by ML. ML does not drive you. ML should never drive you, should never drive us as a society, as a human race, but it should assist us. So if we use it the right way, if we design it the right way in Houdini, it could truly enhance your creativity and fully expand your productivity. So that's it in a nutshell. I put together this slide as well to tell you we've got lots of work still to do here. From full rigs, not just bipeds, but quadrupeds and others as well. You'll see when we do the launch in a couple of days that we have some other interesting characters that we're rigging, and they're looking a lot of fun and stuff that you can use right away. And NLE, of course, with full body AK and whatnot, dealing with speech and audio in a really good way. Character filing, I mentioned post-space deformation, but there are lots of aspects to that. Pose library, USD animation. Does that mean animating in USD or animating in KineFX, but out of USD, in a USD environment seamlessly? I don't know the answer yet. We'll find out, but it should feel seamless regardless. And then, honestly, the usability and performance, rinse and repeat. That's me. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now the real fun stuff begins, and that's with Warren to show you what some of the things we're doing with character in 20.5. Warren.
Hello, everyone. So today we're going to be taking a look at our sneak peek at Houdini 20.5 and the new workflows, features, and tools we have for character animation. And we'll begin with our toucan character. And first thing you'll notice in the top right corner is we have a new animation layers pane. So we can create layers a couple of different ways. We can create an empty layer and add controls to it. Or because we already have our selection set set up, what we can do is we can just select our set. And now we can create a layer from selected controls. So you can tie the two of them together. What we can, by default, they're also created as an additive layer. And you can change that if you want to be an override layer. We can also toggle on to see the layer membership. So we can see all the controls that are part of that layer. And if we want, we can also right-click on the layer. And by selecting the layer controls, we can select all the controls on that layer. And it'll also scope all your channels in your graph editor. Now, I'm just going to take a look at this and change the name of the layer to feathers. And that's because we're going to take a look at our new feather and groom tools that we have. And these controls work pretty well now to get some extra detail and behavior when you start posing your character. So if we take a look at the back here and I start moving the wings up and down, we can see we're getting some nice detail on the feathers on the back moving from there. We can pose and sculpt and adjust our wing feathers as all needed. And if you take a look at the neck area here, when I grab the head control, now when I rotate it back, you can see all the neck feathers are splaying out. Or if I start moving it around, we can change it again and they start flattening out. So you get nice behavior just by posing your character. But what we can also do is we can have more controls just for feathers. So here I can puff out all the back area of that or flatten it down. If I want to add some breathing into, I could just rotate the chest feathers out a little bit. I could ruffle the head feathers, make them all puffed up or flatten them down. I could do the same for the back of the neck, any part of it really. So there's a lot of options now that we have to be able to pose our character, animate the feathers, and get a lot of detail in there. But if an animator is going to spend all that time and effort getting all that detail, getting all that motion into the feathers, we don't want to lose that information as it goes down into through the pipeline into the render. So the great thing about these animation feathers is that they actually deform the groom and drive the simulation. So it allows us to visualize our feathers in real time while getting an accurate representation of the groom while we animate. So this is really great because now what we can do is we can get all that detail, all that motion that an animator spends, and as it goes down the pipe, it should be represented in the render. And here we have the Lucha character, and if we want to take a look at the motion of the ball through the air as he tosses it back and forth between himself, what we can now have is we can take a look at our motion paths on there. And we still have more plans for this, but it's really great to be able to just grab the keys to be able to see our spacing with the ticks and start adjusting the curve. And you don't have to be on the frame at all to do that. You can just grab the keys from any time and just start sculpting it as you want, seeing the spacing from the ticks. And we can also, if you want just to focus on one area, we can limit the number of frames before or after. So you can just kind of have a smaller range in there of seeing that motion path, or you can see the entire thing. And now, if we play this through, say we're all happy with this, what we can see is that at the end of the shot, the ball is going right through the hand quite a bit. So we'll take a look at our new transient constraints to see how we can remedy that. And our transient constraints, what they are, essentially is a way to visualize and easily adjust and manage your constraints in your scene. So if I wanted to constrain the ball to the hand, we could do that simply by selecting the driven, then we can select the driver, and in our frame bar, we can select the range of that. And when we hit A, now what we get is our constraint put on there from the hand to the ball. But if you also notice in the time bar, we now have a bookmark. And that bookmark represents when the constraint is on or off. So if I go outside of that bookmark, what I can do is select the hand. And from here, you can see not attached. If I drag it now into the constraint, now we have our constraint. Now the ball will move with the hand attached. So it's a really quick way to be able to visually see just when a constraint is either on or off in there. And we can do it for the other hand as well. So if we go to the other hand, we just do the exact same thing, select in the driven, then we can select the driver and select our frame range. But this time before hitting A, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it from dense keys to just update. Dense keys will bake a key every frame on the ball, but update will just update your existing keys. So you can still work with some sparse keys there. And you'll notice it created another bookmark, and this bookmark is gray. It's a different color, and that's because the ball has a different driver. So now we can see not only when the ball is constrained, but that it has two different drivers that it's attached to. And at any time, we could turn off the constraint just by toggling auto update follow range off. And now when you move it, it's just keyed in as world space as you want. But if you wanted to, and you wanted to put that back in, you just do that easily. Go to a frame where it's in the hand, toggle that back on, hit A, and now we've updated that offset automatically for that, and we're back to being constrained. And we'll take a look at the last one where it was intersecting quite a bit. Do the exact same thing, select in the driven, select the driver, grab our frame range in the time bar, and hit A. And in this case, I want to put dense keys on, so I'm going to click that back on, and now I'm going to hit A, and we have a key on every frame there. And now when we see it, it's no longer intersecting through the hand. And you also notice that there's an orange bookmark there. And that's because it's the exact same driver that was at the beginning of the shot. So really quickly, we're able to just visually see we have three constraints. We have two of those constraints are to the same driver and another one to another driver. So it's really good to be able to see. And now, because it's Houdini, we can always add some proceduralism in here. So this is just my network. I just have an orange ball and a yellow ball, orange box, and I'm just using a switch to swap out that geometry. So, but if I select the control, you can see it's the exact same control. So I have the same constraints, same keys, same animation on it. But of course, the box is quite a different shape than a ball, and it's intersecting through the hands quite a bit. But our transient constraints can fix this up really quickly by just changing it on one frame. And even with dense keys, it updates all the keys where that constraint is on. And we can do it for the other hand as well. And we just move it up to a correct spot so it's not intersecting anymore. And this time, because I had dense keys on, it now put a key on every frame. So you can decide if you want to work with sparse keys or going into the dense keys. And we can go to the final one as well, do the exact same thing, just drag it up and be able to hit A, and now everything's updated. So it's a really quick way to be able to procedurally swap out geometry, update your constraint offsets really fast, and have it automatically updated throughout. Now this is a pretty simple shot, just one object between two hands. So let's take a look at something more complicated. And here we have Lucha juggling the balls, and there's 25 switches going on here between the balls and the hands. And I just did it the exact same way. I just said, and you can see by the bottom, we have all our bookmarks of every time that blue ball's in the hands, and by the color coding that there's two different drivers in there. And if we wanted to start taking a look at the motion of the ball in the air now, we could do it with our motion paths, but it would take a lot of time to do that many changes to it. And since in Houdini 20, we introduced our new dynamic motion, that allows you to be able to get physically accurate motion just based on your grab and release frame and center of mass. So really quickly, I was able to just add that on, and we now have proper physical motion on there, proper spacing, proper arcs based on the timing of my keys. And if I wanted to, what I would normally do is bake this out. and I would go to bake, and I would bake my essential keys only. And when I would bake that out, I would bake it onto my original animation. But now we have a new toggle there, bake keys to new layer. So now if I bring in my animation layers, we can see what I can do is I can just bake my essential keys, and it'll create a brand new layer for me called dynamic motion. And I can change the name for that to be blue. I can change the color of it to be blue, just so it's easier to spot. And I can drag it down with the white and red balls that I've previously done with dynamic motion. I just have them muted right now. So if we wanted to see them on, we can go back out. And now as I play it through, all I have to do to activate those layers again is to unmute them. So now as I unmute them, now we can see proper physical motion on all the balls and in a fraction of the time that it would take before for me to do it by hand with a motion pad. And like the previous example, we could procedurally swap out the geometry at any time. So if we wanted to have the 3 balls switch into 3 objects, there we go. We can do that very quickly. And because it's an animation layer system, I can just do an additive layer and then add rotations onto all those objects. So now we have them rotating all through. And I just did a final eye line correction on Lucha just because he was looking too high for my previous animation. So it's a really great way to be able to use dynamic motion, to be able to bake it to a new layer since it's non-destructive, and then continue to add and more layers on there to just start adding more motion to the objects. And here we just have Lucha just shooting some hoops. And one thing I use animation layers for a lot is to be able to try different things really quickly without having to redo animation. So all I did here is I quickly did a change where he dribbles the ball behind his back instead. And if I was happy with that, I could start looking at the basketball motion, and I could key that ball through the hoop. But one thing I do sometimes is use ragdoll to get some motion generated for free. And now I have the ragdoll ball going through, and we have that motion. Now I didn't have to key anything. So we can still change the way it behaves though. So if I just select the backboard, all I have to do is change the bounce parameter, and we can go from 3 where it's just sinking, we put it to 0.9, and now it bounces right out. And if we put it to 0.7, what we'll see is we get some nice bouncing around the rim before he sinks the bucket. So really quickly, we've been able to get some really nice motion in just like seconds there. Now, like our dynamic motion, we can turn on bake keys to new layer. And when I start recording this out, I can record as few keys as I want on this or as many keys as I want on it. And that will bake out to my new ragdoll layer that we have there. And now if I turn back on our ball, now we can see we have no motion before, and then the ragdoll turns on. And that's because our ragdoll layer is an override layer. But we can fix that really quickly just by selecting that range, right-clicking on there, and setting our weight from our play bar selection. And now it's automatically keyed the weight of that layer for us. And now when we play it through, we have all the motion plus all the ragdoll on there. And if we wanted to, if we didn't like the dribbling behind the back, we can mute that channel. And now we have our original animation still there, everything all still working together. So it's a really great way to get yourself options. So you have you can have a few things to look at to see what works best for the shot. We also have a new copy and paste feature. So if I wanted to put the barbell in Electra's hand, I can select her hand, copy selection, or Control C. I can select the barbell and right-click Paste World Transforms or Control V. And now we've quickly pasted the one control to the other, and we can shift it up really quickly. So it's a great way to start being able to pose, to copy and paste controls together. And of course, we can use our selection sets and our volatile hotkey Control Shift to be able to pose Electra with the barbell without needing a constraint at all. Now, what we also introduced is a new mirror tool. So if I turn this on, we have a couple of ways to look at it. So if I turn off outline overlay here, what we can see is just a live preview of the resulting mirror. And we can hit enter, and then it would go in. I like outline overlay because I can see it in comparison to my previous pose. And so as I shift it out, now we've not only mirrored the pose from the right hand to the left hand, but we are also mirroring it around the ankle area. And once you hit enter on that, now you commit that pose, now you have the pose. So really quickly, we've been able to copy and paste that barbell into the hand. We've been able to mirror the from being in the right hand to the left hand. And for our basketball one, I did the ragdoll on a prop, but let's take a look at generating some motion with ragdoll on a character. So obviously we want the metal Electra to get hit by this punch and react to it. So if we turn on our metal Electra ragdoll, now when we play it through, we can see she gets hit, knocks down to the floor. But if I wanted to change the motion of that, of how that behaves, say I just wanted her to get hit and then recover from that back to her original pose, we can do that very easily just by selecting our match world transforms. And I'm only going to change 2 keys here, and that's the position stiffness and the orientation stiffness. And I'll, just by changing those, if we drag it down, and we can see when the character's falling down, all we have to do is set a key on them. And then what we can do, if we set a value of 10 on the position stiffness and a value of 10 on the orientation stiffness, now when we drag it back, we can see she gets hit and then recovers to her original position. And another new feature we have is if we take a look at the ragdoll, if we didn't want to look at the ragdoll shapes, now we have a new visualizer. So we can look at the skin geometry. So now we can start working with our ragdoll and seeing the actual skin geometry of the character instead of the collision shapes. And if I wanted to do something like delay the arms from the torso so we have a little bit different timing on there, we can just select the sets that I've set up, the left and the right arm ones. And with the position stiffness and the orientation stiffness, again, I'm just going to set those down to 2. Now when we play it through, we can see that we have Electra getting hit and the arms are coming up slower. And we can do that. You can do that through the head, have that delay the arms each individually. But you can do as much or as little as you want. And when you're happy with that, we can bake out our ragdoll layer. And if we turn that on now, now we can see I just have my layers all muted right now. And we can play through building that up. So we go from not being hit to Electra being hit and recovering. And then I just did some animation on top of there. So now she punches back after that. And if we wanted the wooden Electra, she should react to that as well. So we can have a layer where she's just dodging out of the way. And we keep on doing that. So it's a really great way to take some basic animation, throw on some ragdoll to generate some motion, and then be able to keep on adding your animation layers and build on top of that. Of course, sometimes you want your character just to be completely hit and knocked out. So something I use a lot is I create a cube and I make that a ragdoll object and I use that as a collider. So instead of changing any animation on the punch, now I can accentuate that punch by using a simple cube, and I can change the speed of it and the direction of it to start getting a lot of different ideas of how that motion could work. And then you can bake these out to layers really quickly as well, to new ragdoll layers. And if we go out, I can just take a look at this. And I have a couple that I've previously done. And so now as I play this through, we have her not getting hit. Then I have one where she's just kind of getting knocked back and falling down. And then I made the cube move very fast. And now we get her completely flipping over. So just by setting 2 keys on a very simple object, you're able to really accentuate the punch and change and decide what direction and how far this character needs to go from that. And we've started with our ragdoll posing. So if you see here, I can rotate the hand down. All the fingers will go through the table, start intersecting with it now. So what I can do is select those fingers, and with Control E, I can activate them. And now when I rotate the hand down, now we can see the fingers are no longer intersecting with the table, but they're actually starting to interact with it. So we can start posing our character interacting with an object. What we can also do is make the character interact with itself. So if I just grab the arm and I bring it over to the character's head, and now I want the character's head, I can activate that. And now as I move the hand around, the head is reacting to how the hand is moving. And we can reverse that too if we wanted to. So if we had it down there, we wanted the head to interact with the hand. We can do that really quickly by just activating the hand and then taking the head, and we can start pushing it against the palm. And we can also grab the fingers if we want from here, and we can just start adding some gravity onto it. So now we have a better contact on the head from the fingers. So it's a really quick way to start being able to pose your character interacting with the objects and interacting with itself. And just to tie everything together a little bit, we can just have some simple animation of the toucan picking up a bucket. We can start using ragdoll with the bucket and the toucan so that they fall and start interacting with each other. We can add another layer on top of that to make the toucan get up after this. We can do some layers where we change the ends of the head shakes and try a few different things there. And we can keep on going on with that. But sometimes you'll find that all these layers, you probably don't need them all. So I don't need 2 layers for the head shake. What I can do is just select both of them and merge selected controls or layers. And now we can start cleaning it up easily. So whatever you don't need, you can always merge down. And so with this 20.5 release, with our toucan, our feathers, our motion paths, our animation layers, our copy, paste, and mirror tools, our ragdoll improvements and transient constraints to previously released features such as dynamic motion, animation sliders, volatile hotkey for posing, selection sets, bookmarks, plus many, many more. There's a lot of great things in here for animators. And we'll continue to be adding more tools, more features, and workflow with every release of Houdini. And so one final thing to take a look at is our friends at OdStudios put together some animations showcasing some of the features from Houdini 20 and the upcoming Houdini 20.5. Hope you enjoy. Do we have time for any?
We do not.
We do not.
Unfortunately,
All right.
no.
I tried
Amazing.
to go as fast as I could.
Amazing, Warren. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Hive today.